Alright, let's get started. Today's topic is trigger adjustment. First thing you need to adjust is this trigger placement. You want it vertical, or you want the trigger set forward a little bit or back. It's self-preference, but this dice is an adjustment for it, and I'll show you how. First, you gotta remove this turnbuckle here. It's attached to the trigger. It's attached by a pin. You just gotta pry it apart and clear the pin from the trigger. It's pretty easy, right? Alright, if you want this trigger set forward, you need to make the rod longer. If you want a set back trigger, make it shorter. Alright? Doing that by turning this turnbuckle will make this turnbuckle shorter or longer, and in return makes this rod longer to adjust your trigger placement. Next is your first stage spring tension. It's the first stage travel if you want it light or heavy. By doing that is by this spring here, you have to adjust the tension of the first stage. You need to see when you pull the trigger, it compresses this spring. And there's two settings for it. The little snap ring keeps it in place. You move the snap ring back to compress this spring to give you more tension on your first stage. To me, I like it a soft, really light first stage, and I can feel the second stage because my second stage is really light and it's like a hair trigger. To feel the hair trigger, your first stage has to be light. To me, that's my self-preference. So I end up cutting or shortening the spring. I cut it a quarter of it. I put some soft, called washers forward and back of this spring. Alright, this controls how stiff your first stage by this spring here. Next adjustment is your second stage. When you're on your second stage, after breaks, how heavy do you want the second stage to be? It adjusts the trigger release on your second stage a little bit, but mostly it's how much tension the second stage has. By adjusting that, it's this leaf spring here. Alright, and hit this cap screw here. You turn it counterclockwise to give it less spring tension, to give it a softer second stage tension. Turn it vice versa, crank it in, turn it clockwise to make the second stage stiffer. Next adjustment is your shear engagement. Underneath the leaf spring, the center of the leaf spring is a hole, so you can adjust this cap screw underneath it. That controls your shear engagement, how far the shear goes in to the, how far is engaged in. So when you pull the second stage, it will gradually release the spring tension, and your hammer goes and releases the air. So if you want a light hair trigger, that means it's barely engaged on the shear, you turn this counterclockwise. Alright, you want it long second stage release and stiff, you turn it clockwise. Alright, let's assemble this and I'll show you what the current setting is. And needle nose, a little help of my fingernail, just pry open the turnbuckle, align the hole to the trigger assembly, and it just snaps it back in. I'm going to demonstrate how light I got this set up. There's air in there, of course, so you'll hear it. Let me show you. There's a needle shroud on there. I believe it's 11 inches long. It's a lot quieter than the stock. Alright, lock it in place. Alright, this is the angle of my trigger, the way I like it, and this is the travel. Well, I was a hair trigger, right? That scared the heck out of me, but let's do it again. Maybe I need to readjust it. Here's the length, first stage, second stage, and it's kind of a little too soft. To adjust that, the cap screw underneath this leaf spring, turn it about slightly under a quarter turn, and we'll test it again. First stage, second stage, I feel. And it goes up. That's perfect. Now it might feel different when you have this shoulders. You might have to readjust it later, but I'm telling you right now, it feels good. It feels good like this. It's gonna feel good when you shoulder it. Test it one more time. Cycle it, so make sure it doesn't go off. Alright. Another test, cock it. Bang it around. If it doesn't go off, you're good to go. I mean, at the to pass custom, these have to pass a drop test. So they really crank on the trigger, make it really stiff. They drop it on their butt, drop it on the side, make sure it doesn't go off when the rifle's loaded or cocked. Again, first stage, second, and it's really light. It's quite more adjustable than a headgun trigger. The headgun trigger is a pain in the, ass. I'll cover the headgun trigger after a complete video collection of the Cricket. I'll cover every bit and pieces, how to disassemble, reassemble, what need to be tuned, what you need to fix in case it leaks. Alright, that's it for now.